Admiral Kextar's scaled fingers drummed against the holographic display showing Earth's blue marble floating in the void. The War Council of the Five Kingdoms had been unanimous. Humanity needed to be eliminated before they became a threat. The Zephyrians' crystalline hegemony, Void Hunters, Plasma Lords, and his own reptilian empire had formed an unprecedented alliance for this singular purpose. "They are nothing more than primitive apes with crude rockets," hissed Ambassador Vorth from the Plasma Lords, his energy form flickering with disdain. "Their largest vessels barely reach their own moon consistently." Queen Shimara of the crystalline hegemony chimed in with her crystalline voice. "Our intelligence indicates they still use chemical propulsion and have not even mastered fusion power on a planetary scale. This will be a simple extermination." Admiral Kextar nodded, though something nagged at him. The humans had only been spacefaring for less than a century, yet they had spread across their solar system with surprising speed. Their Mars colonies were thriving, and their asteroid mining operations showed remarkable efficiency. Still, they were clearly outmatched. "The combined fleets will arrive simultaneously at Earth," announced General Thiss of the Void Hunters, his mechanical voice cold and calculating. 500 ships from each kingdom, 2,500 vessels against their ragtag collection of mining ships and exploration craft. The Zephyrian representative, Wing Commander Eros, spread his feathered wings in agreement. "Their military consists of primitive kinetic weapons and basic energy shields. Our preliminary scans show no weapons capable of threatening our capital ships." 3 days later, the massive armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. The sight was magnificent and terrifying. Thousands of ships representing 5 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, their weapon systems charging, shields at maximum. Admiral Kextar watched the tactical display as human ships began moving to intercept. It was almost pathetic. A few dozen vessels, the largest barely a quarter the size of his smallest destroyer. Earth's orbital defenses came online. Weapon platforms that looked like they'd been hastily constructed from mining equipment and civilian spacecraft. "Human vessels are broadcasting on all frequencies," reported his communications officer. "They're asking us to withdraw and negotiate." The Admiral laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "Tell them surrender is their only option. We'll make it quick." But as the combined fleet moved inward, passing Jupiter's orbit, something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't retreat to Earth as predicted. Instead, they formed a scattered defensive line around Saturn, using the ring system for cover. "Curious," mused General Thiss over the comm. "They're protecting their fuel depot on Titan. Tactically sound if futile." The battle began with the Zephyrians diving in first, their sleek fighters darting between Saturn's rings like silver arrows. Admiral Kextar expected to see the human ships torn apart within minutes. Instead, space erupted in ways he'd never seen before. The humans had hidden weapons throughout the asteroid belt. Not the primitive kinetic weapons intelligence had reported, but something else entirely. Streams of particles moving at significant fractions of light speed carved through Zephyrian fighters, like they were made of paper. Void Hunter capital ships found their shields overwhelmed by some kind of concentrated gravitational pulse that seemed to fold space itself. "What in the seven hell?" Admiral Kextar began, then stopped as his sensor officer turned to him with fear in her reptilian eyes. "Sir, they're not using conventional physics. These weapons, they're manipulating fundamental forces in ways our science says is impossible." The human defensive line held, but barely. Ships on both sides were dying, but the humans were vastly outnumbered. Just as Admiral Kextar began to think the battle would end as planned, albeit with heavier losses than expected, everything changed. A new signature appeared on long-range sensors. Something massive was approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri at impossible speeds. "Sir," his science officer's voice cracked, "that object is the size of a small moon, and it's moving at 47% light speed." The communication channels erupted with panic from the other kingdoms' fleets. The object wasn't slowing down. It was heading directly for the battle zone. Then came the human broadcast, transmitted on every frequency simultaneously. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the UES Defiance. You have 30 seconds to withdraw all forces from this system before we demonstrate why humanity's greatest export has always been violence." Admiral Kextar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. The approaching object wasn't a ship. It was a weaponized asteroid. its surface bristling with the same impossible technology they'd encountered in the rings of Saturn. The humans had somehow accelerated an entire mountain to near light speed and aimed it at the heart of the combined fleet. "Impossible," whispered Queen Shimara. "The energy requirements alone would drain the output of a dozen stars." "All ships, emergency withdrawal," Admiral Kekstar commanded, but it was too late. The Defiance didn't impact any ship directly. Instead, it detonated in the center of the Allied formation, unleashing energies that tore holes in reality itself. Ships that tried to jump to hyperspace found their drives failing as local spacetime twisted into impossible geometries. The carefully coordinated fleet formation dissolved into chaos as artificial black holes sprouted like deadly flowers, consuming everything nearby. Admiral Kekstar watched in numb shock as over half the combined fleet simply ceased to exist in the span of 17 seconds. The remainder scattered, jumping to random coordinates in their panic to escape. Later, as his damaged flagship limped back to reptilian space, Admiral Kekstar reviewed the battle recordings. The humans hadn't just built weapons, they'd weaponized physics itself. Somehow, in their brief time in space, they'd made discoveries that had eluded the galaxy's greatest civilizations for millennia. The war was over before it had truly begun. The Five Kingdoms learned that day why humanity had earned its place among the stars not through diplomacy or trade, but through an unparalleled genius for turning anything, matter, energy, space, time itself, into a weapon. The galaxy would remember the Battle of Saturn not as humanity's last stand, but as the day they announced their arrival with the kind of definitive statement that only humans could make. Overwhelming, impossible, and absolutely terrifying in its elegant brutality. Earth's blue marble continued spinning peacefully in space, now surrounded by the expanding debris field of 2,500 alien warships, and a species that had just proven why underestimating human ingenuity was a fatal mistake.